Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, Shinrin Yoku, Yurt Life, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Tuesday, November 14th, 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. The snow is piling up, and we'll get to Al Gore in a minute, but we're keeping a close eye on the Reykjanes Peninsula as the Iceland eruption watch continues. Keep calm. It's boom time. Adverse weather forecast across southern Florida through at least early November 16th, and we'll have the full forecast in just a moment. Extreme cold weather could impact New England's already stressed electric supply, and a watchdog has a grim winter warning. There may be blackouts. North American Reliability Corporation, as much as 2/3 of the United States could experience blackouts in peak winter weather. When here's the weather: wet conditions along the Gulf Coast and Florida, storm impacting Alaska, mild conditions for most of the country. Mild and tranquil conditions will exist for most of the country through Wednesday. A system continues to track along the northern Gulf of Mexico with wet conditions across the central Gulf Coast states and an increased threat for heavy rainfall for southern Florida. Another storm near California will bring waves of moisture through the midweek with rain and mountain snow. Ho, ho, ho. Let's take a look at the forecast and we will walk it through. Who knew? Let's move that back. Yes, okay. Here you can see that activity down in the Gulf Coast, noodling around there with the panhandle. That's going to happen through Thursday as snow moves across the northern tier. The next system really to impact anywhere is going to just be a small pulse here in the end of next weekend coming through. Looks like moving its way down here through the Rocky Mountains as another system develops through the central U.S., which could develop into a nor'easter like a beaster. Take a look at that. So let's take a look at the snowfall totals that are potentially coming from there. We're going to move it through here. Here is your Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday. Not much going on. A little bit of snow in Montana and the Sierras. A little bit of snow in Colorado. But take a look at the Northeast like a beast. Going to be picking up some snow here. And more snow in the Rockies here coming Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. The 20th and 21st, that's going to be the big addition. But look at the nor'easter here. Tuesday, the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd could be big snow up in the Northeast. So stay tuned because the forecast models are looking quite epic. Shut up, Al. Get in your hole. Do you know when Al Gore was born, only 7,000 polar bears existed? Well, good news. Now there's only, more than 26,000 remain. Hail hammers southern Ontario. It got a little scary-o. But we are well aware that hail is going to be increasing through our lifetimes as the magnetic field weakens and the grand solar minimum continues to increase. Seismic update. No quakes of note. Real interesting outlier here in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Let's take a look. 6.1. That's indicative of something. We just don't know what. But overall, it's quite quiet across the Western Front, except for volcanic activity. Intense eruptive activity starts at Italy's Mount Etna. Well, actually started about 3 days ago, but it really ramped up in the last 24 hours. Hours of powers. Take a look at that. New lava fountains and many volcanic and photographic opportunities as Iceland is preparing for what could be one of the largest eruptions in hundreds of years. Iceland prepares to shield the geothermal plant from risks of volcanic eruptions. It began this effort days ago, but when they called the eruption imminent, they stopped. But they re-began the efforts today, which is good news. But bad news is that sulfur dioxide detected in Grindavik triggers a new evacuation. Eruption could be imminent. Increased levels of sulfur dioxide in the town of Grindavik today were detected. This is while residents have been allowed to return in order to collect personal belongings from their abandoned homes. But there was a spike in sulfur dioxide, and they rapidly removed those residents. Bad news there. I hope they got everything they needed. Increased levels of sulfur dioxide in Grindavik were detected this afternoon, while residents had been allowed to return to collect their personal belongings. The infrastructure is being ripped apart in the town. Take a look at this sinkhole slash seismic rupture. You can see more cracks in the road here. This is major. No one's driving through there. Trust me. Well, the uplift is imminent. Let's take a look at that. We can open that baby up. This is the town of Grindavik down here. There is a 15-kilometer long fissure dike here that erupted. You can even see the rise here in the topography. This dike erupted hundreds of years ago, and now it is threatening the town once again. And it looks like the major uplift here is in purple. This is where most of the magma hasn't been emplaced, as well as most of the seismic activity. We're going to show you a 3D breakdown on that in just a moment of what's happening here in all this seismic swarm. This is the depth, the average depth. The main volcanic pulses here happening at about 5 kilometers, but they go all the way down to 10 kilometers in most of the regions. The seismic activity has dropped off over the last 2 days, but that is exactly what has happened in the past 3 eruptions, beginning back in 2020 over at the Reykjanes Peninsula here. So we had an eruption in 21, 22, and 23, and now we're looking at this eruption, or 2020, 2021, and 22, and this will be the 2023 eruption. And so here we are looking in a plan view down at, here's Reykjanes up here, the capital, Grindavik. So the continent would be right around here. Here's Fagradalsfjall and Kelir, where the other effusive fissure eruptions have occurred. But what we're looking at here is the white dots here in Grindavik. So we're going to start tilting this. And so you can see where this is the seismic activity that's happening in that fissure, where you can get a really good 3-dimensional view of what a dike looks like. And I'm not talking about a tranny or any of these other woke people with 14 pronouns. A dike, D-Y-K-E, is a geologic term, which is a sheeted-like feature through a crack in the earth where magma gets squeezed into. And from this 3D view of the seismicity, you can get a pretty good idea of what this dike looks like. We're losing it. We're losing it. Where is it? Damn it. Whew. It's pretty hard to manipulate this. There it is. So here we go. Let's bring it back in. So you can see here where all the seismic activity is happening on this one plane just above Grindavik. That is the bad news. If we go back to plan view, the magma will probably come up either offshore or in the town of Grindavik, in my opinion. So we're waiting for the eruption to happen. And the bad news is that, well, the dike appears to be right under Grindavik there. And the 3D surface model is showing the same. So our thoughts and prayers go out to those that live in Grindavik. It could be a very bad situation. Take a quick look over here at the seismic tremor. This is when everyone was evacuated initially back on the 11th. And they're back there working on it. Bad news is that it's usually 2 or 3 days later after the spike that the actual eruption occurs. So the eruption could be imminent. Here we are over at the live stream, Reykjanes multi-view from Iceland. I see no lava on the surface currently, but this is the most that I've ever been watching live, 5,500 currently. Very concerned about the surface of the Reykjanes Peninsula. We're going to keep you updated. When the eruption starts, we will go live. Now, just a couple funny things before we finish the podcast tonight. The translations have been less than ideal here. Look at this. This is today's translation. The customs house will probably be Grindavik Service Center, whatever that means. Evacuation was quick and took a few minutes today. Seismic activity has decreased in the peninsula, but there is still a significant chance of eruption. I would say 100%. Space weather news update. The sun is quiet at solar max. It is mostly blank except for area 3486, which will be turning away in just a few days. The geomagnetic 3-day forecast is all quiet on the western front. Solar cycle progression still showing very low activity. Solar cycle 25 is one of the lowest in hundreds of years, as well as 24, Al Gore's a bore. Let's bring it back in there, just so you can check it out yourself. Oops, I did it again. It's very hard to manipulate this. Jesus, holy macaroni. There you can see solar cycle 25, just about as high as solar cycle 7 back in 1825. Who knew? Now you do. And we will leave you links to more solar cycle predictions from Marshall solar cycle forecast. Looks like complete garbage to me. I would be leaning more towards the 5 percentile red forecast than any of the others. Astronomers request retitling of galaxies named after violent colonialist explorers like Magellan. We can't get more woke and retarded than this. And if they actually rename everything, guess what happens? Yeah, all history is lost. Just like it always has been. Rescuers dig to reach 40 workers trapped in collapsed road tunnel in northern India. That looks pretty impressive. It looks like they're live streaming from the collapsed tunnel. So I bet they made it out. Now, climate change is a $150 billion hit to the U.S. economy. Well, you know what's a bigger hit? Ukraine. And it's all our taxpayer money going to nothing. There is no way money can change the climate, and there is no way spending our taxpayer money to Ukraine is going to change the recession in America. Wake up, people. Vote with your dollar, and I mean vote like you never have before. Follow us over at Magnetic Reversal News in just a few minutes. The first of 2 videos coming out on our Chaco Canyon expose. This first one is on 2 of the great houses, Pueblo de Arroyo, Una Vida, and the Petroglyphs at Una Vida. These great houses were occupied from 800 to 1125 AD, and I believe you will enjoy the production. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video as we are shadow banned. We need your help to grow. And we'll see you over at Magnetic Reversal News right now. Be safe. And that's a boom.